The January transfer window has officially closed, and we're analyzing the deals and dollars to assess what each club managed to accomplish this winter. However, this brings us one step closer to the summer window, running from July 1st to August 29th, when teams will make bolder moves and several high-profile free agents may hit the market. So, let's review which clubs got what they needed, or not, during the January window and weigh that against what they'll need to address when the summer window arrives. Liverpool. Arrivals: F.W. Kyde Gordon, Norwich City, loan ended. Notable departures: M.F. Stefan Bajcetic, Las Palmas, loan; D.F. Calvin Ramsey, Kilmarnock, loan. How well did Liverpool address their transfer needs in January? If any club could afford not to strengthen their squad in the transfer market this month, it was Liverpool. Arne Slot's team has defied expectations to climb to the top of the Premier League and Champions League standings and looks to be in solid shape heading into the latter part of the season. Standing firm and continuing as they have could be a winning strategy. That said, Liverpool may regret not making a defensive addition, as injuries to Joe Gomez and Ibrahima Konate at various points in recent months have raised concerns about defensive depth, while Andy Robertson's erratic form has highlighted the need for a left-back. The biggest disappointment this month, however, is that Liverpool failed to secure new contracts for Mohamed Salah, Virgil van Dijk, or Trent Alexander-Arnold. There is still an expectation that Salah and Van Dijk, at least, will commit their futures to Anfield, but the longer these sagas drag on, the more unlikely that becomes. What transfer needs must they address in the summer? Much of Liverpool's summer business will depend on whether their out-of-contract trio sign new deals. As things stand, the Anfield club could be forced to replace their captain, vice-captain, and top scorer in a single window, and replacing players of that caliber won't come cheap. Contract standoffs aside, the most urgent squad issue for Slot is likely at left-back. Robertson was crucial to Liverpool's success under former coach Jurgen Klopp but has struggled for form this season, while Kostas Tsimikas is not seen as his long-term successor. With the jury still out on whether Darwin Núñez has a future in Merseyside and Diogo Jota still plagued by injuries, investing in a first-choice number 9 would also be wise. However, competition for such a player will likely be fierce, as many of Europe's top clubs are in a similar position. Defensive midfield was Liverpool's top priority last summer, with the club coming close to sealing a deal for Real Sociedad's Martin Zubimendi, who now appears set to join Arsenal at the end of the season. The emergence of Ryan Gravenberch as one of the world's best number 6s reduces the need to strengthen in this area. However, given the number of games Slot's team will likely play across all competitions next season, bringing in a rotational option would be prudent, especially if Japan international Wataru Endo leaves the club. Arsenal. Arrivals: none. Notable departures: D.F. Aiden Heaven, Man United. How well did Arsenal address their transfer needs in January? To be blunt, they didn't. If Arsenal took a gamble by not signing a striker last summer, doubling down on that decision in January is a bold move given what's at stake. Manchester City's dramatic slump has created an unexpected opportunity to win the Premier League, a feeling heightened by the Gunners' 5-1 victory over Pep Guardiola's side on Sunday, and many wanted Arsenal to take a risk with one or two signings to give them the best chance of glory down the stretch. Serious injuries to Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Jesus prompted Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta to publicly change his stance throughout the window, from being open to a new signing to insisting the club was trying to act with significant urgency. In the end, the Gunners made a late attempt to pry Ollie Watkins from Aston Villa with an offer well below his valuation. They explored loan options, including a deal for Mathys Tel, but ultimately decided to stick with what they have and pursue long-term targets in the summer. It's a decision that could define their season. What transfer needs must they address in the summer? Arsenal has already taken steps in their summer planning by advancing a deal to sign Real Sociedad's Martin Zubimendi. The deal isn't finalized, but all signs point to the 26-year-old moving to the Emirates Stadium, which is a significant coup given that Liverpool, Manchester City, and other major clubs were credited with interest. Zubimendi's expected arrival also eases pressure on two midfielders whose contracts expire at the end of the season. Jorginho is expected to leave and is close to agreeing to a move to Brazilian club Flamengo, while it remains unclear whether Thomas Partey will receive a new offer. The 31-year-old would have to accept a pay cut if he signs a new contract, as he currently earns around £250,000 per week. Of course, the biggest issue remains at centre-forward. It would be a surprise if Arsenal pushed again for Watkins, though the 29-year-old is a lifelong Gunners fan and would be open to a move if Villa allows it, and they are more likely to revisit one of their primary targets. Arsenal has been monitoring Benjamin Sesko since before last summer when he opted to sign a new contract to stay at Red Bull Leipzig. There is speculation that he could leave this summer for a fee between €70 million and €75 million. That would interest Arsenal, as would any indication that Newcastle is willing to part with Alexander Isak. Other players in different positions are also under consideration, including Nico Williams from Athletic Bilbao. They will also have a decision to make in goal, as Nito's one-season loan as David Raya's backup is set to expire. Chelsea. Arrivals: DF Trevoh Chalobah, Crystal Palace, loan recall. Notable departures: MF Cesare Casadei, Torino, MF Carney Chukwuemeka, Borussia Dortmund, loan, DF Renato Vega, Juventus, loan. How well did Chelsea address their transfer needs in January? Well, their spending had to slow down at some point. Chelsea still needs more squad rebuilding to become a serious Premier League title contender, but a relatively quiet period was inevitable after spending over £1 billion since the new owners took over in May 2022. Recalling Trevoh Chalobah from his loan at Crystal Palace was a short-term move that made sense, and they continued their policy of identifying top future prospects by securing a €15 million deal for Saint-Étienne's teenage midfielder Mathis Amugu. Interestingly, the 19-year-old is expected to join Chelsea's first-team squad. Meanwhile, securing exits for fringe players, including Ben Chilwell, Carney Chukwuemeka, and Axel Disasi, as well as receiving around €15 million from Torino for Cesare Casadei, helped streamline what was previously an overcrowded squad. What transfer needs should they address in the summer? Given that neither Graham Potter nor Mauricio Pochettino lasted more than a full season as Chelsea manager, Enzo Maresca's future cannot be guaranteed. A top-5 finish, which will likely be enough for Champions League qualification, would probably be sufficient to keep the Italian in charge for a while longer. Chelsea's transfer strategy, signing the best young talents on long-term contracts with built-in incremental incentives, is well established, regardless of who the head coach is. However, Maresca and his staff will inevitably influence some of Chelsea's thinking this summer. There is a strong suspicion that Chelsea needs an upgrade at goalkeeper, centre-back, and striker. It's difficult, though not impossible, to see Robert Sanchez remaining at the club amid persistent external criticism of his decision-making. Elsewhere, the Blues tried late in the summer window to sign Victor Osimhen before he left Napoli for Galatasaray. That could be a deal they revisit, though they have also been tracking Liam Delap at Ipswich Town. If Ipswich gets relegated from the Premier League, a deal could theoretically become cheaper and easier to complete. Benjamin Sesko, RB Leipzig, or Alexander Isak, Newcastle, could also be of interest, while discussions about a move for Manchester United winger Alejandro Garnacho dominated much of January without leading anywhere. Chelsea would also be open to a move for Kobbie Mainoo if United's financial position forces them to sell. Ali. Manchester City. Arrivals: MF Nico Gonzalez, FC Porto, FW Omar Marmush, Eintracht Frankfurt, DF Abdulkader Kuzanov, Lens, DF Vida Reis, Palmeiras, MF Claudio Echeverri, River Plate. Notable departures: DF Kyle Walker, AC Milan, loan. How well did Man City address their transfer needs in January? City took their time but managed to secure the central midfielder they wanted in Nico Gonzalez. Losing Rodri had a big impact on their season, and the hope is that Gonzalez can soften the blow until he returns. Omar Marmush was also a key signing to replace Julian Alvarez, as City has missed the goals Alvarez provided since he left for Atletico Madrid last summer. Abdulkader Kuzanov and Vida Reis were identified as summer transfer targets but were brought in earlier to help deal with City's ongoing defensive injury issues. Ruben Dias and Nathan Ake are still sidelined, while John Stones has struggled to stay available. What transfer needs should they address in the summer? City didn't do much business in last summer's transfer window, and Guardiola has come to regret it. They are unlikely to make the same mistake again, and there is a feeling around the club that some major squad changes could happen at the end of the season. The old guard has already started leaving, with Kyle Walker moving to Milan, and others could follow. Kevin De Bruyne is out of contract, and his future remains uncertain. Ilkay Gundogan could also leave just a year after his return from Barcelona. Ultimately, City's strong position under the PSR, profit and sustainability rules, means they will have money to spend. Check-in calls have been made regarding Bayern Munich duo Joshua Kimmich and Jamal Musiala. Kimmich is out of contract this summer, and Musiala's deal expires the following year. There is also interest in Juventus fullback Andrea Cambiaso and Atlanta midfielder Ederson. Like everyone else, City is waiting to find out the outcome of the Premier League's case against them for alleged financial regulation breaches, and any punishment, if there is one, could shape what they can do in the summer. The plan for now is to re-establish City as the dominant team in England after a disappointing campaign. Rob Dawson. Manchester United. Arrivals: D.F. Patrick Dorgu, Lecce, D.F. Aiden Heaven, Arsenal. Notable departures: F.W. Marcus Rashford, Aston Villa, loan, F.W. Antony, Real Betis, loan. How well did Man United address their transfer needs in January? United's priority in the January window was signing a left-back, and they did that with the arrival of Patrick Dorgu from Lecce for €35 million. This was the position that manager Ruben Amorim was focused on, as it helps him implement his 3-4-3 system, and he will be pleased that the club got someone over the line. One issue that wasn't addressed, however, is the chronic lack of goals. In fact, Amorim saw his attacking options further weakened with Antony's departure to Real Betis and Marcus Rashford's loan move to Aston Villa. Rashford hasn't played in over a month but still has more Premier League goals this season than United strikers Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee combined. What transfer needs should they address in the summer? A lot. The first thing United must do is secure permanent departures for several senior players. Victor Lindelof and Christian Eriksen will leave on free transfers. United also need to offload Casemiro and Antony, at the very least, as quickly as possible. The long-term futures of Rashford, Zirkzee, and Harry Maguire are also up in the air. United is expected to pursue a striker to bolster their attack. Rasmus Højlund has shown promise but needs support, and the club has been linked with Victor Osimhen, Ivan Toney, and Dusan Vlahovic. In midfield, the Red Devils must find a long-term replacement for Casemiro, with names like Frenkie de Jong, Barcelona, and João Neves, Benfica, on their radar. The defense could also see changes, with a right-back potentially needed if Aaron Wan-Bissaka leaves. With new investors and a summer overhaul expected, it promises to be a pivotal transfer window for Manchester United.